Welcome to the Mama's Village podcast, where Fairfield County moms come together to discover they're not alone in their struggles while uncovering the hidden gems, local treasures, and real solutions that make motherhood in Connecticut not just survivable, but extraordinary. Today is a good one. She is a Fairfield LCSW that focuses on children and parents. She founded the Parenting and Child Wellness Center in Fairfield, Connecticut. She is a Reiki healer, yoga instructor, mindfulness, and meditation teacher, and is trained in EFT tapping. She is my neighbor and friend, Mary Kate Robb. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is a very exciting conversation. We've talked before about what you do, and it's always so enlightening and so great. You are a mom I go to. So I'm very excited to talk to you. Tell us a bit about yourself. How many kids do you have? Where do they go to school? That kind of thing.
Hi. Okay. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here too. I am a mom. I have 4 kids, 6, 8, 10, and 12. They go to school in New Canaan, actually, because Sean is a teacher there. So we've got a white school bus instead of a yellow school bus that takes the children to school and home from school. Bus driver's a great guy. Um, named Dad. And they're great. We have a lot of fun. We play soccer. I don't, they do. And yeah, I've dedicated like my entire life, I think, to children, like from as a young adult, I get, or like a teen babysitting. And then my first job out of college was being a teacher. And then I became a therapist pretty much right away. I just was so focused on the emotional wellness of the children in my class and not how well they were reading. And
Understandable.
here I am. Yeah, I've had, a couple of jobs in other people's practices, and then now I'm here with my own. And it's grown and shrunk over the years, depending on when I was pregnant or not. And now it's been really wonderful to be in a state where I could actually grow the practice to be a place where families can go for support in all different areas. It's changed a little bit. Now I kind of have a building with 7 therapists, so we're all in our separate spaces, like our separate businesses, but we're all focused on children, so that's really cool. And yeah, here I
Cool.
am,
Very
just
cool.
here to help.
So before we dive into what we're going to talk about today, which is a pretty serious subject, I would love to talk about things that you like to do in the Fairfield County area. Where do you like to bring your kids? What's a little hidden gem? Anything like that? Anything to share?
Okay, I love Sherwood Farm. It's so great. It's before Silverman's, and I love Silverman's also. It's just a little chaotic at this time. Sherwood is great. They've got a little pumpkin patch. You can feed the goats for free, get a cookie, play at the playground across the street. Just so simple. And then our favorite place for dinner, which I have to give a shout out to because we were there yesterday and it just warms my heart every time I'm there, is Sal's Pizza in Monroe. It's the best. It's the paper, remember the paper napkin, the
Yeah.
paper placemats with the Italy map on it? Like,
Yes.
they have those and the plastic cup, and a lot of the waitresses speak Italian. Like, they some place that is wonderful, and I think a really hidden gem because you can still go there with a family. We have 6 people, we can have dinner for, like, $75.
Nice. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really great and such good food.
Oh, cool. I had lunch with a friend at the new, am I saying this right? Gruella, Britannia, which is where the porch used to be. So it's in
Oh.
Westport, Weston Westport area. It's sort of like in the middle of nowhere, kind of, It's beautiful.
Yes.
Very cute.
Interesting.
I love it. It was great. And you can get like fish and chips, like it's all British food and really good coffee and really good pastries and stuff. Very cute inside, very British. Little taste of London. It was fun. Really cool.
Love it.
Yeah. What are you watching, listening to, reading these days?
Well, for pleasure or for
Either way, both.
me, for pleasure, I rip through these shows on Netflix and Amazon Prime. Like, I don't even remember the names of them because I put them in my ear and I do all my chores.
Nice.
And it's amazing. I feel like what was one that I just watched where I was like, I don't think I should have watched that. It was really disturbing.
Are you a
Um,
reality show kind of person or like a true crime
no,
person?
yeah, more like true crime. No, more crime, like the British crime.
Mm.
I love the British crime ones. The one I just watched though was the truth about the Harry Caber affair. That was really good.
Well, I just watched the Charlie Sheen one, and that was sad and disturbing,
Oh.
and poor Denise Richards, that's all I have to say. God, what a life. Anyway, all
Oh,
right,
geez.
we're gonna get into it. So, we were talking
Ready.
before about, like, when we went on a walk, and you and I were talking about what you've been hearing about and what's sort of going on in our county and, what you're seeing in children. And I think it's really important to understand that and talk about because when you're going through stuff with your kids, it really does feel very isolating. And it really does feel like you're alone and nobody else is going through it. So I wanted to dive into some of the trends you're seeing lately in children around the area, parents, that kind of thing.
Okay. So I am seeing a lot of children who cannot hear no. Like, then their parents have to say, no, I'm sorry, you can't do that. Whether the parents are saying the no nicely or in a roundabout way or in a no, who do you think I am kind of way, it doesn't really matter. The child will typically have the same response, which is persistence, which, I can appreciate some persistence. I think that's great, but they're missing the signals from the parent where that the parents are giving of like, this is getting too far and you have to stop. And they just can't stop. And then it escalates. And then we're having full family breakdowns because they can't have, another popsicle. And
Right.
it's really challenging.
Hmm.
And I feel bad. I feel bad for everybody because no child really wants to be that upset.
Right. And when you say
I know.
full breakdowns, you're talking, physical, like getting physical, talking about like overblown, right? That's is a lot of it.
Overblown. I mean, some of the kids that I'm seeing don't have this extreme of a reactions, but yeah, for the most part, it's extreme. They're throwing things, some things that could hurt others. Sometimes it's just whatever's there, like maybe a deck of Uno cards or something, and they're just getting thrown all over the room. They're throwing stuff inside their room, storming out of the house, saying they're going to run away, starting to walk down the street, grabbing their scooter, all sorts of things
Hmm.
are happening that are really extreme. And it isn't it escalates. They don't walk into this argument with the parent or request for something with the intention of it getting to that place because they don't want to be there either, but it just is getting there really quickly. And for a lot of kids.
So, is it something, as far as a parent is concerned, how do you know when something is overblown and is something that can't be handled at home, needs extra help? Or is there like a threshold that you can tell moms about? Or should everybody just really be seeing a therapist and talking about it,
It's
like
a
no matter
great
what?
question. I mean, shouldn't we all be in therapy? Probably yes.
Yeah.
But the reality is it's expensive, right? It's hard to find a person that really meshes well with you and your child. And it's a commitment. It's a
Hmm.
once a week for best results, a once a week commitment that we sometimes can't get to. So when do you know you have to go? I don't know. I think it's different for everybody. Some parents have a really high threshold for child emotional outbursts. Like they're kind of okay with it. They can stay really regulated, they can get their child through it. They can even repair really well. Some parents even have really great luck talking about the moment afterwards, and they can really connect to their child on it, and they feel like their child can learn from the moment. And when it happens again, it's a little bit less intense, or they can find a teachable moment within it because it's all really data. It's all just data for like what the child's threshold is, what's really making them upset. And so some parents can handle it. Other times, the slightest time the child cries, the parent doesn't can't handle it. And they really want to come to therapy. And sometimes I'm kind of like, I think they're okay. But the parents really just want the support and reassurance that their child's okay, even though they had a tantrum over like a cookie. Let's say they're 4. I mean, that's a pretty reasonable thing for a 4-year-old to
Mhm.
have a tantrum for. The parent just wants that reassurance that they're okay. But I would say also, if you're really in a situation where your child's moving from connection mode to protection mode, like in their nervous system. So we're like fine, we're feeling safe and social, we're connecting to the family, and then we're quickly shifting into protection mode and like getting deep into that mode where we're like really yelling for a prolonged amount of time and it's happening like more than twice a day for a good amount of time. I would think you would probably want some help for that because that seems uncomfortable for
Right.
everybody, you know?
Yeah. So we were talking a little bit about some of the newer things. So, there's spectrums of autism. There's spectrums of, I would assume, ADHD. Some have it a little bit more, some have symptoms that are a little bit less. What are some of the disorders that you're seeing? How do you diagnose them? Or do you even diagnose them? Is it worth it? But
Mm.
what do you know about the nervous system when we talk about, this regulation that kids are having a hard time doing?
Okay. All right. Was a loaded question. I'm trying to think of where to start. I think I'll start by first explaining the way I've been thinking about the childhood disorders that are happening right now, and then we'll see where we end up. Okay. So this is from a woman named Casey, and I'm blanking on her last name, but she has a podcast called At Peace Parents. She has her niche is a specific one called pathological demand avoidant children. It's a subset of autism. It's when you are in nervous system activation, like your whole nervous system mobilizes to attack and react to the person, typically a person, but it could be like a screen. For example, like if the internet glitches and your show turns off, you have a loss of autonomy or felt less than the thing or the person. So anytime a child feels a loss of autonomy or someone is acting equal to or above them, they will have a nervous system reaction to that experience. And so she describes this process or this disorder, yes, by name, pathological demand avoidance or PDA, but she also calls it a nervous system disorder or nervous system disability. And then when I was looking this up, I have to make something really clear for all the listeners. I looked up nervous system disorder and it's like not this. Like it's like other stuff like Parkinson's and
Right.
so we're not talking about that. This is kind of her coined term that I've started to use as a way to describe that shift from parasympathetic nervous system, that rest, digest, I'm feeling good, I'm connecting, I'm in safe and social mode, to sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight. I have no choice but to attack the thing that has made me not feel safe anymore. Right? There's been a threat to my safety, to my comfort, to my day. I need to attack.
And that's what kids feel when they feel overwhelmed with this emotion of like, I must attack if I did not receive, the cookie. And so it's like an overblown sort of going from rest to throwing things at the wall, punching the wall, all of that stuff.
Exactly. And depending on what your child's group of behaviors are and brain tendencies, like kind of their wiring, they're going to potentially have this nervous system reaction if they have ADHD or autism, anxiety, PDA, which we already talked about. A newer one is the disruptive mood dysregulation disorder and trauma. Trauma is going to give a child that nervous system that just when it experiences any slight chance of threat, they respond. And it's so tricky because it's like how does a like the location of the maple syrup create a threat in a child. And that's because they're neurodivergent. They don't have that neurotypical brain, that frontal lobe that's really attached and working really strongly. And that gives them the time and the space to be like, "Huh, okay, we could probably figure this out." Their nervous system just goes straight to, "This is the biggest problem I've ever faced, and I have to solve it." And the only way to solve it sometimes is like screaming or throwing things because it's just so much energy is being shifted to this threat. Can I give you an example? Okay, my one of my kids came down the stairs and opened the freezer. We keep our maple syrup in the freezer because, pro tip, it pours out slower, so less is wasted. It doesn't freeze because it's so high in sugar, but it gets like kind of thicker and pours out slower. So we keep it in the freezer. Kid comes down, opens the freezer, it's not there. So, for the most part, this child that I'm talking about is my own, and they are, for the most part, neurotypical. I mean, there's always something that I'm like, oh, I don't know. But they opened the freezer, and their response was, "Mom, where's the maple syrup?" Okay. Now, depending on where my nervous system was at that moment, I could have been like, "Oh, seriously? Like, what? You can't just keep looking." Or I could kind of be like, "Oh, buddy, I don't know. Like, let's look all around. Did you check the freezer? Did you check the fridge?" So, luckily, my nervous system was in a state where I was feeling very regulated and willing to support my child in their search for this maple syrup. So I'm like, "I don't know. Check the fridge." And so he opens the fridge, gets the maple syrup, and it's fine. Okay. Pretty neurotypical. Children that have ADHD, autism, anxiety, DMDD, PDA, trauma, and there's certainly probably more, are going to be on that neurodivergent side of things, or in the way I'm calling it, nervous system disability, where when they open that freezer and see the maple syrup not there, that's the threat. Right? That's the moment where they're like, I don't know. Their brain goes right to, this is gonna be the worst. Why is there no maple syrup? Where is it? I can't eat my French toast without it. And there's no way for them to find a solution. So they attack. And who do they attack? Mom or dad or whoever else is right there. And so that's when it's not actually a threat, but in their mind, they believe that it really is.
Is it
And then you're
because,
gonna have
like,
a full family breakdown.
is it because I can't eat? Basically, I can't eat unless I have this maple syrup,
Well, that's gonna
like
depend on the
primal?
diagnosis.
Uh-huh.
Right, yeah, yeah, I mean, sure, it's they're hungry, they've already released a lot of cortisol even to get mobilized to be out of bed and downstairs, if we're talking about the morning, and so, yeah, there is, like, an exit there's already cortisol flowing, so kind of one other thing can set them off sometimes, but it also depends on the diagnosis, so, like, that autistic child is gonna have, like, a really particular way of eating in the morning, potentially. So if that maple syrup's not there, there is no other option. Their brain doesn't work like that. It has to
Mhm.
be the same.
Mhm.
For the PDA child, it's like that they could feel like someone's equal to above them because they can't find it, or they're annoyed that they even have to ask for help because now they don't have autonomy. For the anxious child, it could be just like a fear of like, that's the way I eat breakfast, but now it's going to be different. And like, I don't know if it's going to be okay. Their amygdala is kind of always going looking for the not okay parts of the day. And if that's one of them,
Mhm.
that could be it. For the ADHD, or it might just be for the ADHD, or it's hard to kind of give examples for every diagnosis, but I've done a pretty good job so far. Not to toot my own horn, to give a good idea. I think with ADHD could be all sorts of things similar to the autism one for sure, but it could also be just that they are used to it there, it's not there. The impulse, that initial like, "What? It's not there," comes blurting out,
Mhm.
because they can't like stop it from coming out, and then the parent then reacts, and then we're in the full family meltdown. Um, and then the DMDD kids, those are the kids that's what that means to me, is that their nervous system just quickly shifts into protection mode for all sorts of seemingly not problems, not
Mhm.
threats, and then that's where you are. They just don't have a lot of ability to regulate and see another way.
So, what are some things that you think might be causing this? We did talk about trauma a little bit, but do you think this is sort of like autism? The DMDD is basically what I'm talking about. And or do you think there's something at home that is is it digital stuff? Is it the way we're parenting? Is it because, like, is there anything that you're thinking or any theories that you might have, whether they, be just a theory that you're thinking of or whether it's, you know, something that's been researched?
That's a really great question. And I was in a training actually all day yesterday for ARFID. That's that avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. So different from anorexia or bulimia, where you're focused on weight gain or weight loss. This is a fear of new foods or restricting your eating because of a fear of food for some reason. Like it looks different, it smells different than the brand I like, and I can't try that yogurt or something like that. Anyways, so the lady said, because someone asked a question similar to this, like, why is this happening? And she was like, honestly, just like all of the diagnoses out there, we don't know why it happens. We don't know why some kids end up with ARFID and some kids don't. We don't know why you're born with autism or not. Like it's just kind of what happens. I think I would do a disservice to point it in a specific thing, like in a way. I don't know. I'm a little torn on that, but that's kind of the message I got from this person yesterday, and I thought it was kind of great because I do think parents sometimes blame themselves,
Mhm.
or they blame the school, or the devices, and it all contributes, but the kids kind of are who they are, and I think we have to learn and honor where they're at, and then work with it.
Okay, so let's
Mhm.
talk about a few scenarios at home. Let's get specific. And I'd love it if through these scenarios you could, and these are broad, general terms just to help out and let parents know who might be going through this that they're not alone. So, just so that everybody knows that's the goal here. But can you give some techniques that you might be able to use for this specific child who has this, and we won't call it a neurological disorder, but, DMDD, for example. Like if you have, or if there is a child at home that gets so angry that they are destroying things,
Mhm.
walls, punching holes in walls. It may not be people, could be people, but it's mostly destroying things, getting so angry they're destroying things. Whether it be for a big reason or a small reason, that can feel really out of control for a parent and can feel really scary because you're not really sure how far they're going to go. How can you help regulate that situation? And is there any sort of techniques that you've got?
Okay, so when you were just describing that, one thing that came up for me is this need for the child to show the parent how big the feeling is inside, so they show it on the outside. So you can do something if they're young enough and they would still be open to this, where you can make like a visual for them to be able to show on a scale, like, where they are instead of throwing things. And you would have to say, "Hey, bud, I know that you really wanted to show me on the outside how you were feeling on the inside. I'll understand if you use this and just kind of point to it. Or I'll understand how you feeling on the inside if with your words. Like words, it depends on what you're going for. But then you have to be okay with whatever comes out. Right?
Mhm.
So if you're going to take away the throwing and the way that they're choosing to show you how mad they are inside, you've got to give them something else. When I was an intern in Stanford, this lady put a chair on the table. She was doing a parenting talk and she put a chair on the table. And she's like, okay, so each leg of these chairs are children's behavior: kicking, screaming, biting, throwing. Let's take a chair leg out. What's going to happen to the chair? And everyone was like, oh, it's going to fall over. And she's like, yeah. So when we're thinking about shifting our child's behaviors, we're typically like, you can't throw, you can't bite, you can't hit, you can't yell. Well, then they have I mean, we have to give them something else. So take one out and replace it with something else. And then honor them and really give them some positive reinforcement for doing the replacement. That's huge.
How do you feel about the word no in this scenario? How do you feel about saying no? You may not do that. That is not how we act.
That depends on the child and where they're at in their nervous system protection mode state. So this is from Robin Goebel, who's great. She's wrote the book Raising Kids with Big Baffling Behaviors. I love, love, love her stuff. She described the frontal lobe as the owl brain. So the protection mode, and that's going to be connection mode. Protection mode is going to be your watchdog brain or possum. We'll focus just on the watchdog. And there's different levels. So we've got your what's up watchdog, and that's imagine like a watchdog laying a dog doesn't have to be a watchdog laying in the sun, and like a car goes by, and so they lift up their head, they smell, they listen, and then they go back to laying in the sun. Then we've got and for that, that would be, for this morning with the maple syrup, that was a "What's up, watchdog" moment for my kid. They opened the freezer and they were like, "What's happening?" But their nervous system was able to stay intact. Their owl brain was able to stay with them long enough to ask, "Mom, where's the maple syrup?" Right? And ask it in a tone that kept me regulated too and not triggered.
Mhm.
So, and then they were able to find it and then go back to the thing, right? Go back to laying in the sun. I'm fine making jokes at the table. Then you have the ready for action watchdog. So that's going to be a little bit more. That's going to be, "Ma, where's the maple syrup?" And to which now I have a choice. I can push that child deeper into protection mode and get into back off watchdog, which is just going to be that "Mom, where's maple syrup?" but more intense, more words, maybe some swear words, or attack watchdog, where they're like attacking me verbally or physically, or another sibling. So I can push them there. And that's going to be the "you can't talk to me like that." For some kids, that's going to push them deeper into protection mode. So if you have a child like that, that can quickly get deeper and can't recalibrate from hearing, "You can't talk to me like that." And that's the same if you're like, "No, don't do that." Some kids are gonna that's more shame, that's more guilt, that's more, "Why am I here?" And I'm just gonna get madder. They go deeper. But some kids are like, "Oh yeah, sorry." They can handle it and they can pull it back. So it just kind of depends. So wait, I didn't answer my own statement. So if you have a child that's gonna go deeper into protection mode, if you give that strong no or that "you can't talk to me" or "you can't act like this" statement, which is a perfectly fine statement. If you have a kid that statement works, use it. Why not? Right? If it works, keep doing it. If it doesn't work, it's time to see about changing it up to see if you can get better results.
Mhm.
So you could say something like, it might be in the fridge. Check there. Once they have, let's go with the maple syrup. Once they have it, then you'd be like, "Bud, next time if you could use like a little bit of a nicer tone, it would just keep, you might feel better." Or like, what's in it for them? Like, you might feel better. The more I might have not, it would keep me pretty regulated too. I'm working on it just as much as you are. So like, I need some help. Your tone really helps me stay regulated when it's like that kind tone. When you get mad, I get mad. There's a whole bunch of things you could teach them about the mirroring that we're doing. Our nervous systems mirror each other. So if one kid starts freaking out, then you will just automatically.
So, like the next scenario, let's say I've got a child, my child is, let's say he's like, you know, 5 years old. And we're just sitting at dinner. Everything's fine. We're out to dinner at a pizza place or whatever it is. And all of a sudden, he bites me. Just bites me. Not sure why, not sure what. My automatic reaction is don't do that. That hurt me a lot. And that's a hard no. But you know, 2 ways. I mean, this has not happened to me, but I'm just sort of making this up. But like what do you do? Like what happened? Like what just happened to my kid? Like why did they just do
Yeah, it just happened. I know. And I think in that moment, it's actually similar to what I was talking about before, is we are kind of always having to do this cost benefit analysis really quickly. Okay, so we're at a restaurant. What's the cost of me saying that to them? If the benefit is like they're going to learn something and they're going to stop And great, great. Then let's say that because that's a really important thing to say. But if the cost of me saying no, don't like, and really strong ends up with the child then screaming at the restaurant, you might have to like do that later.
Mhm.
You could always do something later. It just depends on the child and really what can work to get them regulated. So, if you're at a restaurant and they bite you, that's probably a sign that they're dysregulated in some way. Something's uncomfortable for them and they haven't been able to say it. So, you could say, that's a sign that you're not okay inside. What's happening? Here's some water. Here's some ice. Have a bite of food and then we'll talk.
Mhm.
Come to the bathroom with me.
Hmm. Get curious,
And
figure
you
it out.
kinda do yes, and we kinda do it outside, just so that it's easier for you and less embarrassing for you too, right?
In this scenario, it's shocking. It's not just yelling,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Oh, you just, like, literally hurt me." I feel like some of these scenarios, it can be very isolating for a parent, a mom who deals with it every day, and it can feel like it's never gonna get better, and that it's like, "Where do I turn? What do I do?" Like, this is really tough, you know? Do you have any sort of words of encouragement or words of like, what to do?
Yeah, hang in there. No, but I I've got more than that. So, I realized I looked down quickly at the notes that I made, and I think one thing that I have forgotten to say, which is so important, what you think follows like, thoughts follow feeling. So, you get bit, it hurts. The reality is, like, you're probably gonna say, "Ow, don't do that," because that's just gonna be your instant reaction, and the fallout of that, depending on your child, is gonna be what it is, and, okay, what are you gonna do,
Right.
right? The moment happened, it's over. If you can find a pause, and if that pause is better for your child, depending on who your child is and what their habits are that you've seen, because 'cause you're actually we get so well trained by them. And we just have to, like, pay attention and try to understand, and this is where working with someone is really helpful because we can help you understand the data that you're getting from them and
Mm,
make sense of it, and
mhm.
then figure out the best way to proceed when certain things happen. But for everybody and all parents, your mindset is so important. So if something happens, like your child bites you, if your first thought is, "This kid's such a jerk,"
Yeah.
then that's what your kid is gonna feel. So no matter what you say next, it's going to escalate or they're gonna feel a tremendous amount of shame, and it could get pretty uncomfortable for everybody.
Mhm.
More uncomfortable for everybody. But if you can think like, "Ooh, that's a sign that something's uncomfortable," or like, "I don't like that, but I know we can get through this."
Mhm.
Or, "Okay, like this will be okay. We're gonna get through even that, like this will be okay.
Mhm.
We're gonna get through it."
Like, you'd feel guilty, shame almost too. Not even just like, "This kid is a jerk," it's just like, "That's my kid. He's doing this to me, and what did I do to"
Yeah.
like, that kind of
Re
thing.
Yeah, that resentful,
All
like,
of
"What
that,
did I
like
do to deserve this?" Totally, totally, totally. So all of that comes up, and then, when that's with all of those thoughts happening, your next statement's not gonna be great for your
right.
child,
Right,
you
right,
know?
right,
So if
right.
you can switch it in any way, just kind of thought swap a little bit, you can get much closer to them being able to connect to them and then emotion coach them. So those are 3 steps from Dr. Laura Markham. She's the one that wrote Peaceful Parents, Happy Children. And her 3 steps for any moment are first self-regulation for the parent. And my way of doing that would be through your own mindset. But you can also do a deep breath. You can find a pause. You can ground your feet. I mean, there's all sorts of ways you can get yourself to be self-regulated. Then you go to connection, where you just connect to your child. I'm so sorry that something happened to you that made you feel like you needed to bite me. And then you emotion coach.
Mhm.
That's when you say, "Hey, let's not bite next time
Yeah.
you're feeling uncomfortable at the table."
Right, right.
You can tap me on the shoulder and we can go to the bathroom, or you can ask me for crayons, or giving them something else to do because we're taking away that behavior. So we need to add a new one.
Okay. I like that. I like taking away a behavior when you say, "We don't do that, but we do do this." So it's like we
Mhm.
don't focus on the negative of what we don't do, we focus on the positive of what we do do. I like that.
Yes.
I like that in general, like, in life anyway. That's like a problem-solving kind of, like, situation, so I like that a lot. I think that
Yeah.
is very helpful. What happens when it's starting to happen at school? When it's
Mm.
destroying things at school, hitting other kids, all of that stuff. What do we do? Do we talk to the teachers? What do we do?
I think, and this is going to answer the other question of like, what are some words for advice? And I wrote down when kids feel like the adults in their life are trying to control them, the adults or friends are trying to are criticizing them or trying to change them. Those are like the 3 C's of failure that or kind of the 3 C's of like this is going to you're getting yourself one step closer to them completely falling apart
Mhm,
when we are coming from a place of controlling them, criticizing them, or forcing them to change. And that goes for the school too. So I would start there. Like if something is happening at school, then they're not feeling good. Okay? They're feeling like someone's trying to control them, criticize them, or change them. So they're not feeling good. And our typical response to children not doing good is to punish them and
mm,
somehow make them feel worse so that they're going to somehow feel better. I mean, and do better. Sorry. Feel worse to do better.
mhm,
That really makes no sense. So we have to, and I came up with this morning when I was thinking about some wise words. I think we can do some 3 C's of success, which would be get curious, use curiosity, use connection, and have courage, right? Have courage to go and talk to these schools and say, "Hey guys, listen, they're not feeling great in here. Let's get curious about why." And it's probably because there's a lack of connection. He doesn't feel seen, safe, or soothed here. So can we increase that? Make
mhm,
them feel better to then do better.
mhm. Okay,
Okay.
so those are really great tips and awesome. We talk a lot on this podcast about gentle parenting, and that sounds sort of like gentle parenting, like the sympathetic kind of parenting, empathy, using curiosity, really getting down to their level and connecting, all of that stuff, which I think is really helpful. But there has been some talk and some backlash on this gentle parenting and how when they grow up and they get into the real world, at the end of the day, if you act out, and obviously you're not going to be throwing things at work, but if you act out in
Mhm.
any way, you will be punished. I mean, people will not want to work with you anymore. There
Mhm.
is a backlash that is very much like you cannot act that way. It's not connection. You know what I mean? So there's this sort of, and Wall Street Journal called it, I guess actually Wall Street Journal didn't even coin this term, but it's called F around and find out parenting, which is more of it's authoritative and authoritarian are like sort of interchangeable. I think this is more authoritarian. When we were kids, it's sort of like, that like harsh treatment of like, it's my way or the highway as a parent. And if you don't do it my way, then go to your room, like, bye. Um, Authoritative is sort of more of the enmeshed of both, connect, but also set the boundary and do not let
Mhm.
them cross the boundary. So I guess the question really is, how do you feel about these three types of parenting tools? Are we actually doing a disservice to our kids by being so connected with them and by being so empathetic? Is there any way to find that out? Have they, do you know anything about that? Because
So, yeah, I know what you mean, and I think there's a little confusion with maybe confusion or maybe we're like not reading the whole book. I don't know. It's like there is parts, even Dr. Becky's book, she talks a lot about boundaries. And she's all about empathy and connecting, but there's a big section about boundaries and setting them. And we somehow when we heard gentle, it means that we can't ever be mad or we can't ever take away something from them. First of all, like, that's just not I mean, most of us are gonna get really mad and say, "Hey, you can't use your iPad tomorrow."
Mhm,
It's just gonna happen.
mhm,
So, okay, so what? It happens. I think you'll see though that I don't know. I haven't read like the official. Is there an official gentle parenting book?
I think just a lot of people have talked about gentle parenting. I'm not sure
Yeah.
when it was coined. Back in when my kids were little, it was attachment parenting is what everybody was talking about. And then at some point it changed to like you can't say no and gentle parenting and all of that stuff. And I actually
Yeah.
don't know who really coined gentle parenting, but there
Me, yeah,
are a
me
couple
neither.
gentle parenting books.
So I found, and I would be interested. I would be interested to see later on in the chapter, as the chapters go on, do they get to the boundaries? Because they probably
Right.
do.
I'm
I
sure
would
they do. Yeah.
hope consequences, but we kind of focused on like, oh, we can't raise our voice because it's going to be bad. But like, that's not like that wouldn't be real humans, right? So I actually love positive discipline. They have a great book for anyone that wants to learn how to do both. It's all about empathy and teaching parents why kids do what they do. It's a whole kind of other thing that we haven't touched on as far as like the theories that they follow from people like Freud. It's not Freud, but it's this guy Adler. Anyways, but they also are really value saying the rules. Like what are we going to do here and talking logically through consequences with the child. So their thing is for setting consequences that they have to be respectful, reasonable, related, revealed in advance, and repeated back. And if your child has a hard time with it, but you did all those steps, so what? Like they can kind of do what they want to do. You're going to still decide what you're going to do and set the boundary. Like if it's, you have to turn off the screen at 7 o'clock. I mean, everything is so nuanced and it gets really tricky, especially when you're working with some of the kids that I have right now. Like 7 o'clock doesn't always work. Like, what if they're in the middle of a game? Like, so we have to kind of stress test all of these plans that we make. It's their choice, then we just have to do our job and say, okay, well, remember you were supposed to turn off the iPad at 7. We like decided together what would happen if you didn't just do that, if you didn't turn it off. And so now that means tomorrow we're not going to use the iPad. And then you're done. Period. End of story. We don't they can talk and yell at you all they want, but you are going to just
Well,
do what you're going to do. And this is the thing, that can be gentle.
mhm.
Like, you don't have to be a jerk about it, right? Like, still set a really clear boundary without really shaming them a lot, without making them feel so guilty. We can
Which is
skip all of that to
realistic.
just what
That
it
is
is, and
realistic in the real world, like, you're not gonna and a boss is not going to yell at you. They're not they'll probably call HR, and HR will nicely tell you that you may not do that anymore, and you need to, like, leave or whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
like,
so
yeah,
ultimately, like, that is realistic, and that's my whole thing about it. It's like, well, if we wanna go realistic about what's gonna happen in the real world later in life, like, then let's go realistic. Like, it's realistically, nobody's gonna be like, "Don't do that. No." Like, nobody talks to you like that in adulthood.
yeah, totally, totally. And like, you know, they get yelled at. I mean, they get yelled at still, right?
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, maybe there's a family out there where they've never yelled. I would love some tips on that. Personally, it happens. We're human, and that's a reality too, right? They're going to come across people that are not that nice, and then you can kind of talk about it. Like you can kind of be like, yeah, I really yelled. What was that like for you?
Mhm.
And then say there are going to be people that do that, and like you handled that pretty well if they did, or maybe they didn't, and then you can kind of say, all right, how can you toughen up a little bit to not think so badly about yourself if someone's having a really hard time with what you did. There's
Yeah.
all sorts of ways you can use our mistakes to teach them,
All right.
you know.
This is a great conversation. We will continue to have them. I do want to close it with some words of encouragement if you have them for any mom that is going through a tough time with their kid, whether it's a tough stage or whether they do have some sort of dysregulated disorder that needs to be addressed. Doesn't really matter which one it is. It feels like it will never end, no matter what it is, and it feels
Yes.
really hard. So, is there any words of encouragement that you have?
Yes, I think we got to go back to those 3 C's of success. You're going to just try to get curious about your child, connect to them, and by that I mean obviously connect and see where they're at when they're stressed, but also just like enjoy them, like bond with them. I don't know, a simple thing. someone said, "Oh, mom, that tastes gross." And I kind of, I don't know, I was doing something else like, as usual. And then later on, I tasted the thing and I circled back and I was like, "Hey, that is really gross." And then we had this cute conversation about why it was gross and what made it gross. And like that's connection, you know? We were just hanging out talking about the thing that we both tasted that we didn't like. And it was really authentic and great, and they felt good that I circled back to something that I kinda dismissed before, and it so it can be connection like that too, just, like, really simple moments. It doesn't mean going to the mall or going to Sky Zone, like, you just connect and enjoy who's right in front of you. And then the courage, right? Courage to think about them in a different way, think about like change your mindset. That all takes a lot of courage. You have to let go of all the fear and all the shoulds. I should do this, I should do that, they shouldn't be doing this. Let it all go and just have courage that you will get through it. And the last thing, which is so important, is look for what is working, because so much actually is working and going well, but we are so focused, and this is not anyone's fault. It is our biological nature to look for the negative, but we can also choose to look for the positive and look for what is going well. And once you start doing that, you will see your child in a totally different way.
So true. I love that. Oh,
Yeah.
how do we find you? How do we get you?
So I used to do post a lot on Instagram, but then, as you were saying before, like I didn't want to climb the cringe mountain anymore. So
Totally doing that. So everybody knows what she's talking about. I was, just complaining before about having to post on Instagram and how it really feels like I'm climbing cringe mountain, and I am having such a hard time.
yeah,
Anyway, yes, go
it's
ahead.
hard, and but I did used to do it, and I love it. But there is some actually like even though I'm not actively posting on there, I will get back to it more, but there is some good stuff. There was a while where I was posting one thing every day, and it's pretty good. When I go back, it's good, I think. I mean, it's don't you know, not everything is color coordinated with the same font and sizing. It's just kind of my random stream of thoughts that I but, like, why does everything have to be so organized, Abby? I don't get it,
I
but
don't know.
that's a whole other thing. So, but it's Parent Child Wellness Center is the Instagram handle, and then go to the website, parentchildwellnesscenter.com, and you can find me there. I have an employee, Casey, now, who's also an Easton resident, and she's really wonderful. Parentchildwellnesscenter.com is the website. Email is always best, and emails on the website to marykate at parentchildwellnesscenter.com. If you just email me the problem, I can also direct you to one of the 7 therapists that are in the office with me, and because they also might be better suited. I can't do everything. Someone called with something, and I'm always very honest with like, that's a little outside of my scope, but here's someone that can help you.
Awesome. Amazing. And
Right?
what age children do you usually work with?
So my sweet spot's pretty much like 12 and under,
Mm,
as young as 3, I would say. And for parenting, I would say also 12 and under. Teenage things that are getting really heavy and intense, explosive teens. I'm not strong in that area, but there are people that are great, so I can
mhm,
contact them in your behalf or put you in touch with them. It just depends on the situation, let's say,
mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I'll really work with anybody if I think I can.
Mhm. Yeah.
If it's within my scope, then I will help you. If there's something in there that's not, then I'll send you to someone else
Cool.
that would be better suited.
This was
Great.
a really great conversation. Thank you so much for having it with me, and,
For inviting me.
um, we should do it again soon.
Oh yeah. That would be wonderful.
Alright. See you soon.